All right, we're live. Hello, everyone. And
Hi.
hey, welcome to Get Paid. I'm
I'm getting
Kim.
better.
Yes, I'm Kimberly, and this is Deb. And today we're going to talk about culture check. Um, let's talk about the right culture check, though. There we go. So we're going to talk about culture check today. How to interview a prospective employer, and interviewing goes both ways. Now, I don't know if you've been in this situation, but I have been in situations where I felt like I did my research. I talked to people. I had a really great connection with the leaders who I met with. And then I got into a situation where it was a yikes. How did I miss this? So today we're going to talk about that. How do we get inside of the culture before we're inside the culture? So Deb, let's just jump in, right? So what do you actually need to consider when you're evaluating a new professional culture?
Well, I think the first thing you have to think about is what's important to you, because that's really what culture means. I mean, companies have cultures, and it's not negative or positive. I mean, some companies have a very toxic culture, really bad, but most companies just have whatever their culture is. So you have to decide what's important to you in your next role. Is it flexibility at work? Is it the pace of the work that gets done? Do you prefer cultures that are more process oriented? Do you like things that are looser? Do you want a very diverse workplace? Do you want people more just your age, or like, what are the things that are important to you? That is the first thing that you have to establish.
So, okay, so you've gotten the interview and you've done your research and you have your list of what's important to you. Okay, so now you have more interviews. What do you do before those interviews to prepare yourself?
Okay, so there's a number of different things that you can do. The first starts with your networking and your personal network, and that is looking for people potentially who have worked at the company before. Also, possibly people who are still working there now, who have a direct connection with somebody or maybe somebody that you know yourself that you can ask, or even vendors that have worked closely with that company. And ask the question, to these folks, would you recommend working here? And why? A very open-ended question like that is going to get you a lot of really interesting answers. And you can also ask things like, what were the best things about working at X company? What were the things that you liked the least about working there? And start to collect that data with as many possible people as you can to try to get a sense of kind of what's going on. So that's your network is very key in that.
And if you don't have a network, how do you utilize like a Glassdoor or social media?
Absolutely. So Glassdoor is a great resource. You can go right onto Glassdoor. I think you may have to set up an account, but you don't have to pay anything to read the reviews. And you can go ahead and just type in the company name and start to read through some of the reviews. And again, looking for some clues and some things that you're starting to hear maybe over and over again, good or bad, about the culture. The next thing I would suggest is to Google. Google the company. You'll be surprised sometimes at what comes up. Hey, wow, this company supports something that's really important to me. I can tell that they're very philanthropic. Or, oh my gosh, they've had 3 lawsuits against them for sexual harassment. So there's lots of things that can come up that may not be kind of on your radar yet. You can also go onto their website, see the things that are important to them on their website, maybe listen to an investor call if it's a public company, those kinds of things you can do as well. Then you mentioned social media, and that's an avenue that, I didn't have available to me, back when I was younger in my career, but certainly is available now. I mean, can look certainly LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Go on to the company's accounts and just see, what are they posting about? What's important to them? What are they saying about their employees? Are they very customer focused? Look at the the comments that they're getting. What are customers saying about them? What are former employees saying about them online? Those will all give you clues. And what you're looking for are patterns. One good story and one bad story probably isn't going to get you the answer. But if you ask enough and do enough investigation, you'll start to see patterns.
I always feel like you can ask as many questions as you want. Me being a cynical person, sometimes I wonder if, I know that they've chosen who is meeting with me. So if we really liked each other and we're moving beyond that, and I'm interviewing with people who I know that they are saying, hey, we want this person to come, tell how great it is, right? And they still work there. Is there any question or questions that you find more effective in cutting through that, company line?
Well, I tend to personally like open-ended questions, because then you're not really giving people a parameter or a sense of which way you want them to go. So even just asking the question, to ask them to describe the culture and listen for what they say, and don't interrupt. Maybe just really let them, people like to talk, and let them talk. Then you can ask them the next question. You say, what's your favorite thing? What's the best thing about this culture? Let them talk. Now you say, okay, what do you like the least about it? Let them talk. And the issue then, you can ask the same questions to all the people that you meet and start to see if you're hearing commonality. So if people are really saying the same kinds of things or they're not. So that's definitely a way to try to break through sort of people selling you on the company, is really putting it out there to them in an open-ended question.
So here's a scenario. I'm a woman of color. I know, shocking, but I'm a woman of color, and I love this brand, but I don't have any expectations that there are going to be people who look like me in leadership. So I go in and I love the brand, but if they don't have people who look like me, they might not understand my concerns, even if I ask them. Are there any red flags that people should look for when they're interviewing, that go beyond what the words are?
Well, I think it's a hard question, especially if a company doesn't have experience with people of color, and you're going to go in potentially as the first. But I do believe that as any candidate, and especially if you're feeling that way, like there might be a challenge, listen and look at every point in the process. So even as you're getting scheduled, are people welcoming to you? Are people, if they say they're going to call you back, are they calling you back? Are they talking about each other in a positive way? Does it feel like there's communication and teamwork? And I know it's the pandemic right now, but if you get to go to the office, observe what's going on in the lobby. Do people seem to like each other? Do people seem welcoming in general? And then when you get to these, ask some of these folks questions, if you can ask to have some people maybe to talk to who've only been at the company for a year or 2 years, and ask them, what was their first 6 months like? How did they feel coming into the company? And leave it, again, open-ended, and let them kind of tell you. And then you're just going to have to go with your instincts, or, you could potentially even ask HR, what are their plans for creating a more diverse organization, and listen to that. And then you're just going to have to, go with your gut. And if you feel people are being genuine in the interviews, that they really want you there, chances are people who really want you are going to do their best to make you welcome.
Good answer. Thank you very much.
It's not the perfect answer, but
I don't think there is one. I think that's why we're doing a lot of cultural work, because there is no perfect answer. Julie on LinkedIn says that I've always asked, how long has your longest standing employee been here?
Oh, that's a good question. That's interesting. Yeah. And to hear, I like that.
Right? Because then if they've been there 30 years, then what does that, it tells you something. Or if they've been there 5 years, or, it tells you something else. So I think that's a great question. So,
Yeah.
so here's my last question.
Okay.
And I think we've kind of covered it, but you know, at the end when they're saying, do you have any more questions? Like, what is that, I don't know, like brilliant question that when you're interviewing people, you've always wished they asked and they don't, that would give them insight into the culture?
Well, I think one of the things you can ask if you've gotten down the road and you're far down and you really feel like there's a good chance you're going to get the job, you can ask them, what is it about me and my style and the way I've shown up here that makes you feel like potentially we can work together? And I think, hearing what people say about what is attracting them to you can give you some other clues as to what's important to them.
That's a great answer. See, that's a great answer. Thank you so much, Deb. So many questions, so many great answers. And because of that, everyone, the elephant in the room is the election, right? And it's still going on. But I know that elephant is affecting many work cultures because the days of no politics, no paycheck discussions are over, right? The lines are blurred. And so we talked about this a little bit earlier. I think next week, instead of, moving on to our next subject, we're going to move on and continue with culture checks. And we're going to talk about how do you handle when current events intersect with work? Because once the decision's in, there's going to be a lot of discussion. There's a lot of buzz right now. But there's going to be a lot of discussion. And so we're going to talk about that next week. And we hope that you've really enjoyed this week with us. Deb, what's the bottom line you want to leave us with?
Yeah. So the bottom line here is, listen, if culture is important to you, do your homework, ask your questions, know the things that are really critical for you in your next role, look for patterns, and get all of your questions answered.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week with Get P.A.I.D.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week. Culture Check Part 2. How do you handle when current events intersect with your work? We'll see you next week, Thursday at 11.
All right. Bye-bye.